Dear participant friends, today we are to discuss about the, tastes and tools of research. Particularly, we are to discuss about questionnaire, which has special importance in the field of research, and most of the researchers in quantitative research methodology means when the researchers follow or apply quantitative research methodology, basically use questionnaire, and on this most important title area, particularly taste and tools, questionnaire has special importance, or questionnaire has been included in the subject area. On today's discussion will certainly be on questionnaire, and you will certainly get all information relating to the importance and the process of preparation of questionnaire, which is basically applied by most of the researchers, particularly by the researchers who follow or who apply quantitative research methodology. Friends, in the last class we had discussion on different tastes and tools of research. I help you get the information relating to all the most important tastes, particularly educational taste as well as psychological taste. At the same time, with you, we had discussion concerning to the differences between psychological as well as educational taste. I mentioned about most of the important educational taste. At the same time, you people were being informed in the last class about the psychological taste which are being developed by most of the psychologists of the globe. Friends, let us come back to today's discussion. Today's discussion, the focal point or the focus of today's discussion is on questionnaire. On this part this is the part which is being repeated again, so that you get the chance to keep close contact with the class which we did earlier, which you witnessed earlier. So these things were discussed in the last class. I will not, spoil your time. Simply I will repeat the last sentence. Questionnaire is one of the most important, or one of the most used and most abused sometimes, as well as flexible, that is able to change or to be changed to adapt to different circumstances, data gathering tool. And you know that data basically means, the piece of information relating to something or everything. So data do have special importance in quantitative research, and we collect data depending on questionnaire. And because of the lack of knowledge relating to the process of preparation of questionnaire, sometimes researchers may misuse, or will not be able to depend on questionnaire or prepare questionnaire scientifically. As a result, researchers may, or there is the possibility of facing problems. Let us start today's discussion. A questionnaire, what it is? Let us see. A questionnaire is consisted of a predetermined set of questions. Predetermined prefix set of questions. Questionnaire means predetermined set of questions which have close relationship with a problem to be studied by you, the researchers, or event or phenomenon that is to be researched by the researchers. The include questions means the set of questions means the questionnaire, and the questions which are included or which are inclusive of the questionnaire are known as items, not as questions. So friends, the difference between question and item is to be made clear. So friends, in the set of questionnaire means questionnaire is the set of questions, or questionnaire includes a set of questions, and the set of questions or the questions which are inclusive of questionnaire are basically simply or technically in research term means as items. Why? Because these are the diminutive parts of a big question. Means a big question is fractured by making small parts as in the form of item. The researcher basically include the items in the questionnaire. So a big question is divided, or diminutive parts of a big question means small parts of big question in the form of items are included in questionnaire for the collection of data. Few big questions are splintered means fractured in many small items and included in a questionnaire for the collection of different information in relation to the selected research problem, issue, event, situation, phenomenon, etc. So what is done? You have got all information here. A big question is splintered in the form of items, and the splintered items are included in the questionnaire, and that's why questionnaire means it is the big part of some sets, some small questions. Let us say the big questions, how we are to splinter the big question in the form of items, and how we can include all the items in the questionnaire by making small part, and how we are to prepare the items, or how we are to prepare the questionnaire by selecting different questions relating to our own problem of study. The big questions for the inclusion of the items in the small form as per the requirement are generally selected from the literatures or from research literatures that are reviewed for the study of the selected problem, event, issue, and phenomenon. Sometimes in the form of problem, we do select the research area. In the form of event, sometimes we do survey. In the form of issue, on issue also we make survey. On phenomenon also, or phenomena also we make survey. And for the preparation, for doing research on different areas in different forms, maybe in the form of problem, event, issue, or phenomenon, what is done? A big question is fractured, or big questions are divided, making small parts in the form of items, and those are included in the questionnaire. But for the selection of the big question or questions, how we can do? We have to depend on, we have to study, we have to analyze the resource literature. So from questionnaire is prepared depending on the research literature or research literatures. So literature review has special significance, so much well. In the form of the specific chapter, we have to include review in our thesis. And review has basically for two purposes. We have to review literature. Number one, first one is review basically helps us to get all information relating to the research area. Means the research You see, findings, we know about the research findings of the earlier researchers by analyzing or by reviewing the literature. And second, what is left to be touched by you as a researcher is also well, you see, understood by making proper or thorough analysis of the research literature. So research literature basically helps us in two ways to know what has already been done in the specific area which you have selected as your research problem. At the same time, research literatures help the researcher basically to know or to get information relating to the part which is left or which remain untouched by the earlier researchers by analyzing the review. And depending on the review, particularly depending on the findings of the literatures which are being reviewed by yourself in the review chapter, you are to select the question, and then after you are to make small part of the big finding, and in the form of item question. You see, the items are to be included in the questionnaire, and the questionnaire is to be prepared. Review of related literature or research helps to determine the questions that are to be selected for the preparation of the research tool, that is the questionnaire. Generally, two special types of questions, that is the open-ended. These two types of questions in the form of items are included in the questionnaire depending on the review or literatures of the research. Particularly, the findings of the earlier researchers are again treated as the source of question, and those questions depending on those questions means depending on the findings in the form of questions, you see, making small parts, items are selected, and those items are accumulated in the form of questionnaire. And we basically do it in the form of open-ended item or questionnaire, question, and the close-ended question. What is open-ended question? Let us discuss, and what is close-ended question? Let us discuss. So friends, up till now you have come to know that on your own will or at your own ease, you never can include any question in the questionnaire which you like to prepare. At the time of preparing the questionnaire, you are to analyze the literatures, and you are to review the literatures. You see, keeping close connectivity or contact with your own study or problem area, and transport the findings which the previous researchers have reported as findings in the form of findings. You are to, take all those findings as the source of your question, and making small part in the form of items. All the questions are to be included in the questionnaire, and the questionnaire is to be formed in the form of open-ended item and closed-ended item. Let us see. The open-ended questions or items are those questions which the respondents can answer or write according to their own choices. You see, the open-ended questions are those questions which the respondents, you will distribute the questionnaire, you see, among the sample in the form of respondents. They will respond, the sample will respond, and what they do, you see, they do not have the sample or the respondents do not have, in case of open-ended question, they do have total, you see, freedom to write whatever they like to write in the form of answer to the question. The respondents are free to write or answer which they consider as appropriate or proper or right or correct, you see, considering the question. But what happens on the other hand, close-ended type of questions, in case of close-ended type of questions, there is 2 or 3 options, means yes, no, or no comment, like this. On the respondents means is those which cannot be answered according to the free will of the respondents. The respondents cannot write whatever he or she likes to write as response. In close-ended questions, the probable answers are also given with the questions. The respondent is simply to select the answer he/she considers as to be right or correct as per the given instruction with the items. So, maybe in yes or no format, then simply the respondent is to, or respondents are to put tick mark. They do not have any freedom. They cannot write whatever they like to write as the answer of all those, you say, items or questions which are included in the questionnaire for the collection of data. Experts have provided various forms of questionnaire. Questionnaire, as it has been indicated by the experts, are of the forms of closed form versus open form, unstructured versus non-structured form. These are the open-ended questions and closed-ended questions. Again, research experts have categorized, you see, the questions just like closed form questions versus open form, where in closed form no freedom is given to the respondent for replying or for responding, but in open form respondents do have the freedom to write whatever he or she likes to write as the answer of the question or questions which are included in the questionnaire. Unstructured versus non-structured form. Let us see one by one. Closed form versus open form. What you see, these are the questionnaire that contains closed-ended questions is generally called a closed form questionnaire. So see, the questionnaire, very easy, that contains closed-ended questions is generally called a closed form questionnaire. Closed form questionnaire which contains closed-ended questions call for short check response or restricted response from the respondents. Respondents are to select yes or no, true or false response by giving a tick mark. This will be there in the questionnaire. Just you see after the question, yes or no option will be there, or true or false option will be there. The respondent is simply to put mark either of the two, means on either yes or no or on true or false, may be given by the respondent or respondent's tick mark, or they may underline the reply. Means if a respondent says that the answer of the question or the item, any one which is there in the questionnaire, is to be replied as yes, then he may put tick mark or she may underline it. Sometimes respondents are to select an item by seeking out a response from a list of responses. Sometimes responses are unlisted in the questionnaire, means just after the question supplied to them with the questionnaire. In closed form of questionnaire, the respondents are restricted and their choices are anywhere limited to the supplied answers or responses. They do not have any freedom to write their answers or to reply the questions or item in their own ways or according to their own expectations. They cannot do this. You means the researcher has the authority and you know the reply or the answer. And then the question here, next you see the next question come please. The question here that contains open-ended questions. We have discussed about the closed response question. Now we are to discuss about the open response question or open-ended question. The question here that contains open-ended questions means items is generally called as open form of questionnaire. Closed form of questionnaire, which it is or what it is you have got, and now open form of questionnaire. Let us discuss. This form of questionnaire contains open-ended questions, items which the respondents can answer according to their own choices or freedom. They do have freedom. The respondents can use their own words to write the answers they decide as to be correct or appropriate. They do have the authority or freedom. In such form of questionnaire, with the questions or items, no clues, means answer clues, which help to solve the problems or give the answers of questions are given or supplied. Nothing is given. It is open. They can write whatever they like to write in the form of answer, and the writing is to be, you see, again, transferred to, you see, to digital form by giving number, because we are to, you see, the qualitative statement is to be quantified depending on you see, data, depending on statistics. The respondents or the subjects get the chance to reveal their own feeling and thoughts, and they can have the chance to show results for their responses. Why they like to respond that way? They do have the freedom, and in such, you see, open-ended questions, the respondents do have the freedom, and they can write it in the form of answer, whatever they like to write, you see, as the answer of the questions which are put or which are included in the, you see, open-ended questionnaire. In the practical field of research, friends, it is seen that, it is witnessed that in most of the questionnaire, both the forms are followed. Basically, what is done? Basically, both forms means closed-ended as well as open-ended questions are included. You see, suppose if there is 60 items or there are 60 items in the questionnaire, then 40 items may be in the form of closed response or closed-ended form items may be there, and 2, 3 or you see 90% may be closed-ended question items, and the 10% may be open-ended items there in the questionnaire. So we find basically what we do, we include, or basically researchers use both the forms in the same questionnaire for getting necessary research data of information in the form of or forms of research data from the respondents. The term structure. Now let us see structure versus non-structured forms of questionnaire. Open-ended, closed-ended questionnaire. You have got non-structured versus non-structured forms of questionnaire. Let us see. The term structure, where from it is taken, has been originated from the Latin term structura. Structure means the arrangement of and the relations between the parts of something complex, very much difficult. It also means the quality of being well organized. Structured questionnaire is a well-organized questionnaire which contains definite, concrete, and direct questions or items to the respondents for the collection of research, necessary research data in a particular sequence or a particular order in which related things follow each other. Questions or items are included in the questionnaire for getting responses from the respondent for the collection of research information in the form of research data. Items means questions which are included are a set of related things that follow each other in a particular order in case of structured or structured questionnaire. On the other hand, what happens? Non-structured questionnaire is non-directive. There is no direction at all. In such form of questionnaire, the interviewer simply gets the blueprint of the inquiries or a problem that is to be studied. The interviewer or the data collector is free to arrange the form or statements of the questions according to his or her own ease. Both these forms, that is structured and non-structured, that is structured form of questionnaire and non-structured form of questionnaire, are generally applied or used in interview, particularly in interview schedule, for the collection of data necessary for researching a particular problem or for researching the undertaken problem. So friends, up till now you have got 4 types of or categories of questionnaire. One is open-ended questionnaire, closed-ended questionnaire, structured questionnaire, non-structured questionnaire. And questionnaire basically for preparing the items or to include the items in the form or include the questions in the form of items in the questionnaire, or for the preparation of questionnaire. Basically, we are to study or scrutinize in proper manner the available resource literature relating to our own area of study or relating to the areas of studies of the researchers. So friends, this much relating to the questionnaire, different forms of questionnaire, and basically you know that in quantitative research methodology, basically we are to depend, or the researchers are to depend on questionnaire, and in case of when the researcher, particularly in the field of literature as well as in the field of history, the researchers needed to depend on or needing to follow quantitative resource methodology. They are to follow qualitative resource methodology, which will be discussed in later part. Now you see, in next time discussion, in next class, what will be discussed concerning to interview schedule, we will discuss, because interview schedule has special importance in research on basically in interview schedule, structured and non-structured items or questions are included for getting all necessary information for the purpose of collection of necessary research data. So this much for today. Thank you so much. See all these things. All these are very much technical, so you should better see and see so that you can have proper concept or proper idea. Thank you so much.